Hello, everyone. We're happy to have Victor here with us today. Victor, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much for asking.
Great. My first question for you, what are the benefits of Web3 technology compared to traditional web technology?
I think there are quite a bunch, but for me, the main ones are related to transparency. Everything that happens on chain, I can actually go to the ledger and check it out. I don't need to trust you. I can verify. So don't trust, but verify. That's something I really like. And the other technology is, or the other benefit on the technology that I really like as well, is the concept of the smart contract. The fact that you and I can agree on something, we can put that in a contract that is actually code. And this is not how you interpret the contract or how do I interpret the contract, but what we agree, it's there. And if we say, I don't know, by October 31st, I'm gonna pay you X amount of money. If you do X thing, then it will be executed. And you don't need to chase me, Victor, where's my money? And that's something I really like. And last but not least, and I think this is also a benefit, but maybe not the benefit, depending who you ask to, is this decentralization stuff. The fact that we try to avoid a single entity, whether this is a person or this is a company, to make all the decisions on any technology. I think that's also something very relevant. So those are the three key benefits for me.
Yes, that makes sense. Can you share what are the key challenges you face when working on Web3 projects?
Actually, I'm going to pick up on the third one. And decentralization sometimes can be a challenge. I don't know if this is something unique to Web3 or also something that happens as well in some Web2/open source projects, but sometimes when things are too decentralized, like, okay, but are we making the decision or not? Like sometimes we have too many cooks in the kitchen. That is a challenge, and overcome the challenge also tells you about the strength of the project. So yeah, I think that's my biggest challenge. Sometimes the lack of decision making anywhere. That's biggest.
How do you address scalability challenges in Web3 projects?
Actually, that's a wonderful question, and I see different angles. So scalability can be taken in different ways. And I'm very biased because, of course, my role is product marketer and I have this technical background. So I'm very biased towards the technical challenge. And when it's about the technology itself, I really like the researching part. So when we hit the limit number of transactions in Ethereum, I really like how the technology evolved, and we look for the layer 2, but also other technologies like Polkadot or Solana or Cosmos came in. I really like this kind of concepts. As I said, some of these people, they also address the challenge of scalability in different ways, like how can we scale the number of users we are onboarding? And then there are a number of UX projects. So the way I address the scalability is by reading, doing my own research, and sometimes not being afraid of speak up. And if I have some crazy idea, which I often do, I don't mind sharing this idea, and if it's bad, and if it's good, let's just get things moving.
How do you address concerns about the lack of regulation and legal frameworks for Web3 projects?
I really like the approach that some people are taking in this aspect. I have some of very good people that I know in LinkedIn. They are lawyers and they are very deep into Web3 regulation. And if I summarize all what they say, from Mr. Thor to Chrissy, I would say that the common sense, which is very rare, I know, is the guidance. And what do we mean by common sense? Try to be even conservative. Like, if I go this way, I may succeed, I may not. It really depends on how the regulator will take what I'm doing. Is it a bit cheeky? Don't go that way. Try to be very conservative in that way. If you think what you're doing can fail in any way, just try to find a way that nobody can actually say you were doing things wrong, which involves, for instance, if you are not someone who is very deep into financial advising, do not provide financial advice. Simple as that. You don't know if your token is a security or not, just don't promote it. Try to focus on the value rather than the money. That usually helps a lot. And also do not overpromise. So if you follow these kind of guidelines, and then whenever the legal framework arrives, if you've done things like very, again, conservative in that way, not about the technology, but about the, everything surrounding it, you have a very good chance to be safe.
Okay. And do you think people are ready to the adoption of cryptocurrency? If you think they are, what strategies have you found to be effective in raising awareness and adoption of cryptocurrencies?
I think it's a little bit of a challenge, and we are right now in the middle of a very interesting discussion. When we look back in the history of the money, we'll see that back in the day, pretty much every local community, they had their own money, they have their own currency. At some point, a powerful currency would arrive and would take over. But then inflation would take down this currency and another one would pop up. I feel it's a very similar situation, the one we are currently having in Web3. Like if you see my wallet, you will find easily 60 to 80 coins because I like projects. And guess what? Every project, they have their own coin. And then this coin is in a different network. And I need to be able to understand, okay, I want to play this game that is present in blockchain A and blockchain B, and therefore I need to have the same token in two different chains. There is this bridge. The level of complexity we have as of today, it's hard. So you combine these with sometimes not the best UX in some of the wallets. Like I want to do this transaction, but then I need to sign the transaction. I need to validate the transaction. I need to execute the transaction. I need to acknowledge the cost of the gas. Oh my goodness, that's not very practical, is it? So I think in terms of awareness, in terms of adoption, in terms of how can we democratize the access to currencies to the mass, so to say, we still need to invest some more time doing user research. We need to invest some more time on improving usability and user experience. Again, if I want to participate in any DeFi project, I need to learn a lot of concepts. Like the first time, I still remember, it was back in 2010 or so. And they said, well, yes, you can put your money and get some yield. I was like, oh, wonderful. How can I put this USDT? Oh, well, you don't do the USDT plus the other token. And I was like, I only have USDT. Yeah, you know what? That's not how these things really work. You need to learn a lot of things in order to actually take some advantage of the system. So all this complexity is what I think it's making the adoption way slower.
Yes, I agree with you. And let's talk about marketing in cryptocurrency industry. What are some innovative or creative marketing techniques you've seen or used in the cryptocurrency industry?
A bunch of them, actually. One of them that I really like, to be honest, is the fact that we use memes a lot. There is no sense of being really corporate, be really involved or something like that. So this kind of innovation, this kind of having a fresh voice, so to say, is actually wonderful in the industry. Being brave in this kind of, marketing activities, in these tactics, it's wonderful, engage. And then the other thing that I think it's actually very interesting is how even we marketers quite often adopt the jargon of the Web3 people. Like if you're a Web3 project and you have a community manager, it's so normal to put maybe in a tweet, GM friends, like, okay, that's something that in the corporate world, you wouldn't see. And also this raises a different behavior. Like in Web2, my background is in Web2, sometimes if not a threat, you are not really asking when some new functionality is coming. But in the Web3, when, whatever, of course, you have this typo without the H, right? But that's a very interesting marketing technique. So to call.
Can you share an example of a successful cryptocurrency marketing campaign you've worked on and what made it successful?
Well, I had a big challenge with one of the products I took to market in the past. It was proof of reserve. Of course, the first challenge I had is that everyone that was not familiar with it, whenever they read proof of something, the first thing they thought was like, okay, is this a consensus mechanism? So we had to do a lot of education explaining what was proof of reserve. And I think it was a very successful campaign because after a while, lots of people already understood what proof of reserve was. And of course, after some of the problems we had in the market, and I'm not naming any big exchange that has fallen at all, but transparency was key, and that also helped us educate. So instead of not addressing the elephant in the room, we were like, okay, there has been some problems, and this technology, this concept would actually be able to help you solving these problems. So I think that is a very successful marketing campaign. My manager by that time, a guy called Chirac, was wonderful. He supported me a lot, and any crazy idea, he was providing feedback. So I think that was also very interesting when it comes into campaigns. So again, this is something very nice in Web3, the ability to get different voices and make them all together in order to achieve a big marketing campaign.
How do you navigate marketing restrictions and limitations imposed by various platforms and advertising networks for cryptocurrency-related content?
I try not to cry as the first thing, but it's frustrating. Honestly, it's very frustrating. I ran in these issues a number of times along my career. Like, you want to run this wonderful campaign, everything is ready to go, and then, oh, no, you can't do that. And it's very interesting because one of the things we try to be, this goes back to the legislation and regulation that we spoke before, like we try to be very conservative. For all the companies that I work for, and this is something I really encourage all the people in Web3 to do, they avoid talking about the token and the token price. That's something, it's something not good to do. And we don't do that. That helped us in the past to open a ticket with LinkedIn, open a ticket with Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, and let them know, like, guys, we are here for the technology. This is all about Web3, this is about crypto, but we are not focusing on the crypto. So again, we are not providing you any financial advice. We are not telling you, please go and buy X token. We're talking about the technology itself. And that was the card that we play a number of times very successfully. And after a while, sometimes this is not happening overnight, but we managed to convince these big platforms, okay, this is about the technology. This is not about the token itself. And that was like a wild card that we play in order to move forward.
How do you differentiate your cryptocurrency marketing from competitors in a crowded and rapidly evolving market?
I think this is the toughest part. And honestly, I think it's not bad or good. I think it's what it is. And first of all, I'm super grateful for having a wonderful team, because in marketing, we have different departments and all of them are very important. Like, we have paid media, we have content creation, and the department that I belong to is called product marketing. And one of the beauty part of product marketing is that we work on different parts of the product messaging. So we work on the messaging, we work on the value proposition, and we also talk about what is different from us versus the competitors. One of the things that I've been always trying to do, and I hope I did, it's never talk shit about anyone. Because if you say whatever project is not as good as us, it say more about you than about the other project. So what we tend to do instead, or what I tend to do instead, is focusing on the cool part of the technology. That part of the technology that is really, really unique to us. So if we talk about scalability, I don't talk about any other project. So I would talk about how wonderful is block space, how many transactions per second can I have, and so on and so forth. So being nice to other people, because at the end of the day, you don't know where you're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. You may end up working for other project, is good. That's one thing. But the other one that I would also emphasize is not lying. You don't need to lie. You don't need to lie about your technology, but you don't need to lie about others' technology either. And when we look at the landscape today of Web3, there are wonderful projects that are different to you. And what you should do, what I do, is just focus again on this area where I think we really exceed. When we think, okay, this is really, really ass-kicking, and we want our users to be focusing on this. So that's what I would say.
And what measures do you take to ensure that your marketing messages are accurate, transparent, and do not make false promises to potential users or investors?
So in order to do that, I really like this very old concept of making interviews. So in marketing, of course, we do a number of surveys, and surveys are super, super useful. But doing interviews brings a lot of value. So whenever I have something ready, I do interviews both internal and externally. So the ones that I do internal tend to be with engineers, all the way from a developer to maybe engineering manager, product manager, if there is anyone. So in that way, the first thing I validate is, okay, what I understood out of the PRD or any other requirements document, it's accurate, because sometimes there can be some things that are not what we meant. The second thing I do is we deliver what we promise, again, in the requirement, because sometimes we feel RFEs or whatever, we are expecting this to happen, and for whatever reason, the technical implementation is not exactly what we request, and it's slightly different. I have no issues on adapting my messaging or anything to what is actually critical. But then the external interviews for me are also important. Why? Because in my mind, everything is crystal clear, and I'm every day talking about the same topics with the same people. So if I explain any coworker from any department something, they have a lot of context. However, if I go and I pick any random person, and by the way, to all my friends, if you ever watch this, sorry for bothering you, but sometimes I request to them, like, do you mind if we jump on a call and I tell you something, and then you give me some feedback, whether this is clear or completely unclear. And that is extremely useful. At least to me, it's super, super useful.
Isn't it time consuming for you to make these whole interviews?
It is. It is really time consuming, but it pays off, because again, in my life, one of the things that I learned is that data is very important. So let's say whatever thing I don't think is nice, and I have this gut feeling I have a better idea. Sometimes I'm wrong. I don't say quite often, but quite often. Sometimes I have this idea that, this is just wrong because I don't see things in a certain way. After I do these interviews, I either realize that I was wrong, it's fine, or I have some more data to go back to my product manager or engineer lead and say, you know what? This might not be the best way to do whatever. And by the way, this is the supporting data that I have because A, B, and C. And at least it's not Victor saying A, it's Victor plus all these interviews. When it comes into my managers, and I explain this habit of doing interviews, some of them really like it, and some of them are like, you know what? Let's give it a try. But so far, and I feel super thankful as well, I have never had a no, that is a waste of time. What I may have was like, okay, how many interviews are you planning to do? How much time are you considering spending for these interviews? And if for whatever reason we have other priorities, what they may say, and I think it's also rightful, is, Victor, okay, maybe this is not the priority number one. So first, I need you to deliver assets X, Y, Z. And after that, you're free to do, or please do not forget that you need to deliver these assets by this date, and then everything else is of course welcome. But time consuming, yes. Does it pay off? For me, absolutely yes.
Okay, great. I have two last questions for you for today, Victor. The first, what do you think is the biggest risk facing the Web3 ecosystem in the next few years?
Yeah. That is a tough question for me because I've seen a number of different risks. So one of them is that we don't really make a huge improvement on UX, but equally important, regulation can also be a huge risk. And I don't know which one can be worst, because if we don't really convince people that this technology is affordable to them, not money-wise, but wisdom-wise, that's a challenge. But on the other hand, if the regulator don't really understand the technology, okay, that's also a very big challenge. So I think most of Web3 companies can contribute in both. And I'm super happy to see that most of the most relevant Web3 projects are working towards these very important topics. Like no matter which big Web3 project you're talking, or even from many VCs like you are putting a lot of effort on both understanding what are the fears, the requirements, and what are the concerns from the regulation point of view, together with the technical challenges, and try to overcome all these problems so we can solve these two big challenges.
And last but not least, what excites you most about the future of Web3 technology?
I usually tell this very often, and I will repeat that. I don't know what I don't know. And that is exactly what makes me super excited. Like, when I started in 2018 as, amateur Web3 enthusiast, so to say, I was like, I don't really know how far the technology can be. 5 years later, technology has evolved a lot. And I wonder how this technology will look like in 2, 5, or 10 years. So this kind of, I don't know what is coming, really excites me. I am super lucky because I get to talk, as you do as well, with a lot of startups. And I see wonderful ideas, very brave, very bold, very edge use cases like, oh my goodness, how did you arrive to this conclusion? How do you arrive to this idea? Some of them, I have to say that maybe the technology is not ready, but these people, at the same time, they are not afraid and they are working towards their use case, their idea, their business idea, to make it happen. And they are evolving the technology to suit this use case. So this really makes me feel very excited because I have kids. And right now, my relationship with crypto in general is kind of nice. I have wallets, I have everything. And I wonder, how is this kiddo's relationship with the crypto world going to be? Like, is everything already embedded in the phone? Maybe, I don't know. And that's something I'm super excited about, how this technology will evolve and what's the future gonna look like for us.
All right. Thank you, Victor, so much for this discussion. And for those wanting to connect further with our speaker, you'll find Victor's contact information right in the video description. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Likewise. Bye. Cheers.
Bye.